Welcome to the WS Sales School podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. I hope your business is growing tremendously. It's fun because I'm seeing a lot of growth myself. I think I've had the best January I've had in a long time. And January is usually a pretty good month, but we've had a really good month this time. I think a lot of my marketing is working. I think a lot of you guys have been great to reach out. A lot of my clients are referring me business. And hell, I'm also been on the phone calling people I want to talk to, so who maybe need my help. But as you grow, and I don't care, just don't watch the news. They're going to tell you the whole world's going to hell, which maybe it is, but that shouldn't impact your business, right? As you grow, let's talk about where you need to focus. Which kinds of prospects do you need to be calling on? What kinds of clients do you need to be spending time with? So I'm going to tell you a story that some of you may have heard more than once, but I feel like it's an important story as you help to focus on where you need to spend your time. So those of you that have heard the squirrels, deer, and elephant story before, good for you. Listen to it with a beginner's mind, because maybe you're in a different spot than you were the first time you heard it or the last time you heard it. Or maybe it's just time you really focused in and maybe you pick up something else you didn't pick up before. So here you go. A man lives way out in the woods and he's got to feed his family. And he said, there are a lot of squirrels in the woods. So he gets up in the morning and he walks all day and he shoots 5 or 6 squirrels and he comes back to the house happy. He's got food for the family, skins them, cleans them, cooks them, feeds his family one meal. Gets up the next day, walks all day, shoots 5 or 6 squirrels, comes back, once again, happy he can feed his family, skins them, cleans them, cooks them, feeds his family one meal. Well, day 3, day 4, day 5, it's more and more work he's realizing, and nobody's really getting full, and he's like getting a lot of pressure. He says, shit, this isn't working. Everybody's kind of mad at me. Nobody's getting full. I got to do something different. So next day, he gets up and he says, you know what? I'm going to go kill an elephant because I can kill one of those and I can feed the family for 2 years, I bet. So he gathers all the stuff necessary to kill an elephant and he walks out the door and he's gone. And a couple of days go by and his son's hungry and the rest of the family's hungry. And the son says, damn, I don't know when Dad's coming back. There are no elephants nearby. They're hard to kill. He's as likely to get killed by one as kill one himself. I don't know how he'll drag it back. How the hell do you build a fire big enough to even cook an elephant? So the son says, there are a lot of deer in the woods too. And we could really use some more food. And so he gets lucky. Well, grabs his rifle, goes and climbs a tree, gets lucky the first day, shoots a deer, drags it back, skins it, cleans it, able to feed the family for 2 weeks. Gets up again, 10 days later, climbs a tree, gets lucky, shoots another deer. Now, y'all know where this story's going. You've already seen it. You've already heard it. You know what's going on. And so I want you to picture your existing customers and your prospects, the people who have not yet given you money, as squirrels, deer, or elephants. Now, the first thing is there's nothing wrong with any of those. I just want you to have an awareness of them and what the impact of them is on your business. Squirrels are the tiny ones. They're probably calling you. Maybe you started with them when you started your business, and you're grateful to them for trusting you through all this time. And they're grateful to you. But they're also highly service intensive. And maybe you're making big margins on your squirrels, but it's not much money, right? 100% margin on $1 is $1, which is not that much money. So everybody's got different versions of this, but they're very service intensive. They take a lot of time for the money that you're making. Now we think about, on the other end, the elephants. They're the giant ones in your world right now. And here's what I'll tell you. Elephants typically take a long time to close. You've had to promise a lot of things to make them your client, right? It took a long time, but you get there and you're thrilled. Maybe you even brag. We've got ABC Company as our client now. Big hurrah. And you have to hire other people, or you have to really staff up or put a lot of people on that account to take care of it because it's a big damn deal. And so things are going along fine. And the first thing you'll notice maybe is that they'll ask you to do a little bit of something extra. right? Maybe a little, I don't know, a lagniappe or we call this scope creep, right? A little bit of extra. And so you do that because you're happy. You want to make sure you take care of the relationship, make sure that relationship is happy, right? And then you keep going, and then all of a sudden they come to you at some point in the future. It could be 6 months or 2 years and say, man, I really love what you're doing for us. We really appreciate you. Love the relationship. You taking me to lunch once a quarter and, giving me deals when I need it, tickets to all this stuff. Really appreciate the relationship. And here's the problem, though. Gosh, getting a lot of pressure from the board or from my boss to lower expenses. And well, somebody's come to me, your competitor, and said, you're charging us $1, say. They say they can do it for 80 cents. Can you help us? I'd rather do business with you. And you know what most people do? They drop their pants and they take the cut to 80%, to 80 cents. Because they don't want to lose the relationship. And now they got to have the revenue because they got all these people that are working on this account. We got to keep feeding those people. Shit. Well, almost by definition, if your revenue drops like that and your margin's gone, you cannot provide the same level of service you did before, right? You're scrambling just to get at least you can. And then at some point after that, sooner or later, you get another call from your elephant and they say, hey, look, your service has really gone to hell. You're fired. And they hire your competitor and the cycle starts again. Meanwhile, there are a lot of companies that don't survive after an elephant leaves. You hadn't had time to prospect for them, for anybody new. You've got to lay off staff. It can be a disaster. And your pipeline is zero because you hadn't had the ability to take on a new client. It sucks, right? I don't know about you, but I don't know if you've ever had an elephant before. It can be devastating. Now, here's the thing. If you have an elephant, just recognize it for what it is. I would say any one client, customer, that is more than 20% of your revenue, I would consider an elephant. I don't want you to fire them, but I want you to be aware of who they are and maybe begin to dilute them. So the last category are the deer. And deer are the ones that are right in your sweet spot. If you look in your marketplace, there are hundreds, if not thousands of deer out there already, right? They're easy to manage. They're right in your sweet spot. You can handle them with the staff that you have, or you can grow the right way, right? And you can make plenty of money. And if one or two go away, you're fine because there are plenty more out there to go after. Here's what I want you to think about. Approximately 15% of your book will turn over every year. 15% of your customers will go away. And rule of thumb, maybe it's more, maybe it's less, but that's about rule of thumb for the average business. So you need to be adding 15% to the top every year. Otherwise, you're falling back. And if you hadn't lost any in a while, just know that shit compounds. And so be aware of that anyway. When you're focusing on how do I grow my business, where do I focus my marketing dollars, my prospecting time, I want you to focus the vast majority of your marketing dollars and your prospecting time on deer, the ones that are right out there in your sweet spot. Now, here's something I want you to think about. How would you define a deer in your world? Maybe if you've got a sales meeting coming up, this might be a good discussion to have with the rest of your team. What is a deer for us? How would somebody who's not in our business recognize one, right? Because if we're asking for referrals, maybe they don't know what a $50 million company looks like, right? But what does one look like so that somebody else could recognize it? Is it a 50-person law firm? Is it a manufacturing facility? Is it some kind of facility with, a bunch of doctors? Is it somebody that, anyway, come up with that. What does a deer look like? How many do you have right now? And then how many would you need to have a really kick-ass business? Focus on that. And what I hope is that 3 to 5 years from now, sometime in the future, what feels like an elephant for you now will end up just being another deer. Identify who you're working with and who you want to work with. Make it simple so that other people can direct you there, can refer you because they understand who you're looking for. Take really good care of your deer. Take really good care of your elephants. Just know them for what they are. Squirrels, do what you want. This makes people very nervous, but I would say double, maybe triple your rates with the squirrels. Here's what happens. Many will leave. I get it. I'm sorry. Let them go to some of your other competitors. Let them choke up those guys' business. The ones that stay are the ones that appreciate you and will grow with you. The reality is, if you've been with somebody since they were a squirrel, we think, oh, but sometimes they grow into deer. Here's what happens, though. They grow into deer, and then they get picked off by somebody else. Not 100% true, but it sure does happen a lot. I'm Walker McKay with No BS Sales. Go hunting for deer.